Hey, this is Adam with Resize Creative. Have you ever wondered how to make your own lightning brushes? Well, today we're going to cover that. We're going to show you how to make your own lightning brushes that you can use for your artwork. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find an image of lightning, whether you've taken it yourself, whether you found it on a stock site. You're going to grab any image you want to of lightning. The key is to have good strong blacks and a strong white lightning strike. And so the first thing you need to know about about making brushes, especially lightning brushes, is that brushes are black only as far as while you're creating them. So when you create it, anything that's white is going to disappear. Anything that's black is actually going to be the brush itself. So that's the first thing we've got to do, is we've got to make this into a true black and white, and we've got to play with some levels a little bit to get it to where, like, all of this let's say grayish tone is actually black. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to completely desaturate this image. Actually, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a duplicate layer, and then we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate. And you'll notice we have a black and white. It changed a little bit from kind of a bluish, purplish, greenish haze to now true black and white. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to call up our levels, and you can do that by pressing Command L or Control L if you're on a PC, or you can go to Image, Adjustment, Levels. And you'll notice here it'll bring up a new dialog box, and you are going to take the black side of this, which is the left side of the histogram, and you're going to drag it to the right a little bit. Do this slowly to make sure that you're not losing detail in your image. So we're just going to do this until it looks pretty good. I'm fairly happy with this. We're taking it to 40. You can still see a little bit of detail in the silhouette of the leaves that were in this shot, but I'm not too concerned about that right now. We'll get rid of that here in a minute, along with down here. But we're going to click OK here. Now, whenever you click OK on this levels, it actually applies that to the layer right here. A lot of people are familiar with going to the levels adjustment and it creating a new layer, and so that's not what we want here. We've actually got to apply that, and so that's why we did it that way. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that all of this area is black, and so you'll notice over here there may be a little bit of gray, like really dark gray, very hard to notice in some areas, but we're going to make sure that it's all black. And so we're going to do that simply by painting with our brush tool. And we're just going to select a nice sized round brush. We're going to make sure that we're painting in black. And I'm just going to really quickly just kind of go over this area. You'll notice that little area right there went away. We're going to get rid of all this right here. I'm also going to get rid of some of this stuff like right here that it won't really help the brush any. So we're just going to get rid of it, along with this up in here. We're just going to go ahead and get rid of that like so. I'm just going to quickly go over and just make sure everything in here is black. Get really close to the lightning and make sure that it is black in there. Sometimes this will be really difficult to see, so you'll just kind of have to play with it. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, we've actually got to resize this. Photoshop has a size requirement or a size limit to the brushes. So what I'm going to do is, I think it's 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to drag this out, and I'm going to center the lightning in that just like so, and then I'm going to click OK. There we go. So there's by 25 pixels. I'm sorry, 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels. Now the next thing we have to do is we actually have to invert this. In order for Photoshop to make the brush itself, it's going to read anything black. So if we were to turn it into a brush right now, then all this black out here would be the brush, and the white would actually disappear. So if you're playing around sometime, you want to see what actually happens with that, play around with it. But for this purpose, we need the lightning to be black, so that way the brush, that Photoshop can actually read that that's what we want the brush to be. So I'm simply going to go up here to Layer. Let's see here if I can figure out Adjustments. Invert, or Command I or Control I on a PC. So there we actually see the brush. Now that we have that there, we're going to go Edit. We're going to Define Brush Preset. We're going to get a new dialog box right here, and you'll see the lightning brush right there. I'm just going to rename this to Lightning, and we're going to click OK. Now I'm going to go to a new document just so that we can see a little bit better what is going on here. I'm going to shut this down, something I'll show you here in a minute. But I'm going to select my brush, and I'm going to make sure that my foreground is white, or whatever color you really want, as long as it doesn't blend in with the background. So in this case, I'm just going to press X to invert those colors to make white the foreground color. And I'm going to go right here to my brushes, and I'm going to scroll all the way down, and the brush we just made is right here at the very end. So we're going to click on that brush, and we're simply going to click. And there's the brush. Now just so that we can kind of see, I'm going to make the brush a tiny bit smaller if Photoshop will catch up with what I'm doing. And there we go. That's making it smaller. And we're going to brush across there. So you can kind of see we have our lightning. Now there's some cool stuff that you can do with this. You can add layer effects to it. You can change a lot of the brush settings to get some different looks and feels to it. So just for really quick, to show you, we're going to go brush shape. We've got it right there. We're going to space this out just a little bit more, just so that way it has more space in between each lightning strike. We're going to go to Shape Dynamics. I'm going to change the size jitter. For this, I'm just going to put it about 50, somewhere around in there. You can go more. You can go up to 100 if you want to. For the minimum diameter for this, I probably won't mess with that. The angle, I'll change the angle. We'll just put it all the way up to 100. Roundness, I'm going to leave it alone. And let's just kind of drag this across, and you can kind of see what's going to happen. So you can get some different lightning strikes. Some people would use this. They would change it black onto a gray background, and they would make like cracks for cement or something along those lines. You can come in here to color transfer if you want to. Just to show you, I'm going to have mine up to 100. So every time you drag this across, the lightning will go from really bright white to black, and all the grays in between. And if you have, let's say, blue and red, then it'll do that same thing. It'll be blue, from blue to red, and then all the mixed colors in between, so purples and everything. And then you can go to transfer, and this tells you about, you can play with the opacity. You can tell it to go from more opaque to less opaque. And so we'll just kind of drag that across here. You see some of them are kind of lighter and some of them are a little bit darker, and that's exactly what is happening. You can change the flow. So if you change the flow, let's put it up to, let's just change it to 50. The flow is just adding on top. So like if we just stay here in the center, every time it crosses over, it gets a little bit brighter. So this is a bad brush example to show that on, but that's what it is. So that's kind of the lightning tutorial there. I'll just show you something really quick. I created an orb earlier just because I was playing around and wanted to create something unique, not necessarily unique, but something. And let's just for giggles, let's take this effects layer, or these effects, and we will hold down Option or Alt and click and drag them up, and they will apply to that layer. There we go. And you can kind of see, kind of gives us some cool effects here. Gradient, I don't want it as that. We're going to go reflected. And there we go. So that's it. Thank you for joining me. And once again, my name's Adam from Resize Creative, and we hope to see you next time.